This is Robert Fabian, and I'm going to present the case of internet use violations with threats over the World Wide Web. The situation is this. We have a setting of an affluent suburb with kids that have access to the latest technologies and the items that the world has to offer. The families are also in power positions. The families are doctors and lawyers and partners of investment firms. They bring in a new teacher to teach an upper level class, and for a new teacher this can be really intimidating because they don't know where they might stand or what they have to do to help take care of the kids or even relate to the parents. While this can be a high risk situation for the teacher because there's a good chance that you might fail in the situation, it also could be a high reward if the teacher is successful. Also, we have the principal, Dr. Forbes. He is well established in the community, and he is someone who the community respects as a leader, and the school is one of the most prestigious schools in the state. The principal has been recognized as Principal of the Year. The school has a reputation to uphold its most prestigious school in the state reputation, as well as they want to hire only the most highly qualified teachers, and that's why he took his time trying to hunt for this teacher here. The new teacher is Miss Walker. She's hired so that she could teach what many would consider honors types classes. She has in her background a bachelor's degree, a master's degree, and another year of postgraduate studies before she began teaching. So this makes her a little bit older than most teachers right out of college. So she has a few years under her belt there. Her classes are considered rigorous because they are honors type classes, as well as Ms. Walker wants to establish a structured classroom focused on academics. Classes are considered high levels of stress though for the students because of the amount of work that is expected of them. Ms. Walker has not done well though in reducing the stress of the students and increasing positive interactions with the students. So this is kind of setting up a scenario where while there's a rigorous class, she's trying to teach it more like a college class, and the students may not be prepared for that at this time. Students, it seems like they might have a sense of entitlement, as the parents are there complaining about the possibility of their students might get their first low grade. Dr. Forbes has received numerous calls and complaints, complaining that it could cost a student a valedictorian and salutatorian. It could cost, if that's the case, it could cost scholarships or admission to a prestigious university. It also has an issue with intense competition for the highest grades in the class. And of course the parents are complaining about the workload and the poor instruction. If there's a lot of work involved and the instruction is not very good, it sets up for a possibility of failure here. So that brings us to the point of when they have Veterans Day break. The teacher goes away for 3 days, comes back and gets an email with a personal message to view a website. When she clicks on it, she realizes that it has some really suggestive comments about her personal behaviors. It has lots of comments about vulgar comments about her class, and then ultimately it has a question: who wants Miss Walker to disappear? Well, her reaction to that was not pleasant. She feels threatened, and I can see where she could feel threatened because of what has been said on the website. She calls the principals and states that she's feeling threatened, and she is going to return to stay with her parents who are 3 hours away. She doesn't feel like she can stay alone in her apartment there in the neighborhood. Dr. Forbes, his reaction is he listens to what she has to say about the website. He wants to collect a URL from Miss Walker so he can investigate. He acknowledged her concern, but he kind of downplayed it so that he actually called the web page a prank. Well, he gets the names from Miss Walker about any student in the class who might be an issue. He calls the student in the next day to begin the investigation, and he also calls the district technologist to discover the origin of the email and to see if he can also discover the website origin also. So that's what we know. What do we need? What do we need to know more? I would like to know a little bit more about classroom discipline and referrals that were written by Ms. Walker. I'd like to know how has she handled classroom management in the past. I'd also want to know the students' referrals and behavior records. I want to know what type of incidences have happened in the past, and is there anything that would be something that tip us off about what might happen for this future here. I also want to be able to know the principal's observations and evaluations of the teacher. I want to know if she has made any progress at all in what the principal's asked her to do. And then I would like to know Dr. Forbes' record on student discipline, whether or not there's been other serious incidences or not, and he's just kind of brushed them aside. I also would like to know the school's technology policy, and also the discipline that's if somebody breaks the policy. I'd like to also know the school's discipline policy for threats at school, whether it's intentional or considered a prank. I also like to know where did the URL originate and who was responsible for sending the email. And I also like to offer a point here is, can a school offer a leave of absence for Ms. Walker while this whole case is being investigated? So here's the problem. Ms. Walker, I think, has problems relating with students. Even though the courses are rigorous, the teacher has to develop a relationship with students so that help them accept the workload, as well as know that the students, well, that way the teacher will also know that the students are stressed beyond expectations here too. The next part of the problem here is Dr. Forbes called it a prank, even though they're threatening and demeaning words. Whether it's a prank or not, these are hurtful words that are posted on the internet for everyone to see. This can ruin the reputation of anyone involved, and especially the teacher. It has potential problems for the principal, as well as this would go down with the kids or the students or whoever made up the website. The issue is that, of course, words and posts will be around forever in some type of digital format. If it's on the web, it stays there. It's something our youth still struggle with and trying to understand. Well, the next part of the problem is the students feel they deserve good grades at this school. I mean, that's part of their reason to go here, is so they get good grades so they can go to good colleges and get good jobs. These students are coming from backgrounds of being well off, and seems like they are used to getting in their way. Ultimately, this is a relational issue. The teacher is focused on the class, being hard and rigorous without understanding the needs of the students. And the principal, well, he might have a positive relationship with the community, but seems to have missed the relationship with developing the teacher. He tried to underplay her fears of the situation to say that the website was just a prank. It seems like he may have missed some of the things that are going on with her in developing the relationship with a new teacher. Families, here's another part of the problem here. Families have certain expectations to their relationship with the principal, namely that the students graduate from a school of high reputation. This means that there's pressure to make sure that the students have a good education and good grades. Also, part of this is that students have struggled to respond positively to the work for their grades. The relationship and their culture of the school can lend itself to an entitlement culture. And the next part here is that, well, there's enough blame to go around in this situation. Ultimately, though, the problem, I think, resides with the teacher in her failure to understand her students, as well as with the principal, seeing to it that she does focus on the relationship with the students as well as the parents. Now, here we come to the proposed plan of action. The first step, I think, in this situation is one of safety. Safety to arrange for a leave of absence for the teacher as she's feeling threatened. This is a short-term leave of absence just to make sure we have a chance to complete the investigation. I think since it's the middle of November, maybe have the teacher come back after Christmas or winter break. Starting a new semester, a new year, might allow for some perspective on developing the relationship with the students. Need to keep the teacher out of the classroom also in the short term so the situation doesn't deteriorate to affect other students who are not involved. I also want to gather as much information as possible. I meet with the district technologist to find out the information about the website, the URL, as well as the origin of the email. I want to as much information on the website before I start talking to the students. I also want to keep the superintendent informed about the situation, so I keep the information flowing up to my superiors, so if they get phone calls, they also understand that something might be happening. Next thing is I want to review policies. I want to make sure that I understand the appropriate use of technology in our district. Since this is an email that's sent over the school email system, there's a potential for appropriate use issues. And then I also want to review policies of threats against students and staff at school. School probably has a zero tolerance policy in place for threats against students and or staff. Next step is I will begin questioning. Well, I'll start questioning with the initial suspect. Ask questions about Ms. Walker's class, the workload, the class culture. I also ask about other students' behaviors in class. I like to keep things general and do not tell him that I know about the website or the email. Main thing is I want to get to him to understand him and how he responds to the teacher. I also want to question other students in class so as not to single out any one person, but gather as much information that might lead to an actual suspect. Next thing is then, of course, have parent contact. Once I obtain information that leads to discipline issue, well, as long as if I have the electronic evidence as well as testimonials, I call the parents of the students involved and explain the district policy about what is expected and what happens here with threats at school and how students need to be disciplined. The disciplined students then is the next step who are involved in the situation according to the district policy. Make sure I stay right in line with the policy that has been written. Use the relationship with parents that I've established also to help them understand the discipline policies at issue here. I have some political clout to use here since I've had all these awards and the school's been in such good shape. I will need to use that to make sure the parents understand what needs to actually happen here and discipline their children. Next category, of course, is resolve the issue. What's best for students? Well, that issue, well, one thing is that there's poor teaching coupled with no connection with the students from the teacher. Also, at issue here is students have expectations for high grades, whether they have to work for them or not. Also at issue here is the competition to get the highest grades at all costs. And also at issue is the website that could destroy the reputation of a teacher. Now, while there's a problem in the classroom with instruction and relationship, the main issue here is that there's really no excuse to bully and threaten a staff person. There has to be a punishment. This is where I think this is a struggle. There really needs to be a punishment that fits the crime that was committed against the teacher and against the school. Now, this might not sit well with parents, but not acting with integrity and according to the policy that was written in the school handbook would set a precedent for future students to feel that they can do what they want and get away with it. Now, while this might while the leave of absence might be short term, the students also need to know they cannot bully a teacher into resigning or that the school will remove the teacher from the classroom. Students need to learn that they will have to deal with difficult people in their lives, and some of them might be their bosses as well as their teachers. They also need to learn how to deal with the situation without resorting to threats. Ultimately, I would like to repair the rift between students, parents, and teachers. This means that I will have to help each side see positive aspects of each other and see that each have positive attributes to contribute to the relationship.